Sever.
It's been a while since we've actually connected one-on-one about Traumathon and how it works, but essentially we take a look at nostalgic horror from 8+ years ago and remember fondly what it is about these pieces of media that scared us. Hell, lots of the things we talk about usually isn't from something even relating to horror. Sometimes it's just something that freaks you out and sticks with you forever. With today's first entry, we're not going to look back too far into the past, yet it still will invoke a sense of nostalgia for many as it parodies the shows that we all grew up with. Talking, of course, about Too Many Cooks. Nearly 10 years have passed since Too Many Cooks first aired on Adult Swim. Actually, saying nearly 10 years have passed is like saying, okay, it's been 9 years, alright? Fine. It was part of Adult Swim's infomercial series, which aired at 4 AM. A series that meant to invoke confusion to its audience, not just through the content within it, you know, content such as this, or this, fucking this. Jesus. Now, it was really meant to catch people off guard who were especially nocturnal and flipping through channels until eventually, yeah. Okay, but really, let's set up the environment here, and that should be easy because I think everyone has gone through this particular moment in their lives at least once. Picture this. It's way past midnight. 2 AM, 3 AM, 4 AM, one of those ungodly cursed hours of the night where pretty much the entire world has fallen asleep except you. You're alone with your thoughts, alone in the dark, nothing to do, nothing to really work on. I mean, you're just too tired to work. It's not like you're too tired to go to bed, though. You're conscious, but you're not too energetic. So what do? Well, let's face it, if you try to go to bed now, you'll likely just stay there on your phone for like 2 hours, so there's no point in that, right? Alright, well, how about watching something on TV? You flip through channels, some movies are on, but not the good ones, just the ones that are cheap enough to air, not the ones that are good enough to show in the morning. It's boring. Turn on the TV guide and you see Cartoon Network has a program called Infomercials right now. Here's the thing, tons of other channels also have that Infomercials program on. That means everyone's playing those really boring and really shitty, sometimes really weird ads that are basically scams. That's just how it was. Boring. Nothing's on tonight, I guess. So, you go to bed. Like 90% of people who were in your shoes. But for the 10% of people who decided to, for some reason, check out Adult Swim on purpose or by accident, you're introduced to a surrealistic view of the modern sitcom that we Westerners have become accustomed to for nearly 80 years now. It's the same old stuff over and over again. A father, a mother, their 3 to 4 kids, the wacky side characters, could be a relative, could be a pervert, maybe some friends, moral lessons to learn along the way as well, and other stuff. And yet, in this video, it keeps going. It just keeps going. It keeps going to the point where it devolves into something else, changes genres multiple times, from a sitcom to a crime drama to a sci-fi adventure and even a G.I. Joe parody. All the while, the visuals get crazier. The narrative seems to lose itself. The cast was being chased by a strange balding man with a machete. He was everywhere, and one by one, he started taking down the remaining cast members until it was only him and Smarf, the puppet cat. With everyone dead or stuck in captioned hell, I guess, Smarf makes one last attempt to reset everything. But before he can, he dies in front of the button. It's unclear if he really pressed it or not. The next thing we know, hey, everyone's back. Awesome, rad, that's amazing. Uh-oh, but he's still around, leaving it up to interpretation as to what the fuck you just watched. Seriously, what the fuck was that? That was Too Many Cooks! A little creation by Casper Kelly, a writer for many Adult Swim shows and co-creator for Your Pretty Face is Going to Hell. He and a skeleton crew gathered together to film everything they needed in about 2 to 3 days. The first iteration of Too Many Cooks was pretty simple actually, as it was going to just be the main theme repeated over and over again, but Mike Laszlo, the producer, encouraged him to get more creative, and more creative he got as it started to evolve into something far more than just a sitcom parody. It became a parody of really everything that's on TV, and possibly even a commentary on the television industry as a whole. Now, as complicated as the short seems, I think it's surprising to know that yeah, this was made in 2 to 3 days, at least filmed anyways, but the small window of opportunity they had to film everything doesn't really compare to how long it took to actually edit the video. That's where the real labor came in the form of editing this whole thing, which took over a year to complete, as really this whole project was more of a side thing and not really a full-time job for anyone. At one point, Casper Kelly wondered if anyone would find it funny other than him and his friends, who were working on it with him, notably Paul Painter, as both of them were pretty much doing the most heavy lifting in editing, and tried to make each other laugh anytime they could, which they did in between their work producing Your Pretty Face Is Going to Hell. Yet that year-long labor paid off, as it turned out to be a fucking nightmare fest and one of the most unsettling and strangest fucking visuals you've ever seen from Adult Swim. It is a hell of a ride that I can't really do justice by describing, and this ain't even all of it. Tons of ideas they had already storyboarded unfortunately never made it to fruition. There's actually a well-written article that interviewed the entire cast about their experience working on the short that you can check out in the description. There's a ton of info that's mostly trivial, but interesting nonetheless. So if you want to know more, give it a read. But if you want to experience the short itself, then you'll have to watch it yourself, unless you've already done so, that is. And I wouldn't be surprised because it remains one of Adult Swim's most top viewed videos on their YouTube channel, which says a lot, because the only videos that do killer numbers on Adult Swim's channel are videos of Rick and Morty and one of Pibby, which, sorry, I know a lot of people have asked me to cover Pibby this year. It's too early. It's nostalgic horror. This came out 2 years ago. I'm sorry. So Too Many Cooks had a huge impact. Also, side note, I think this is the only YouTube title that has this special treatment, this font and color. I've never really seen that from pretty much any other video on YouTube. I could be wrong, but it's crazy. It's also surreal to see. So why is it that this video became so viral so fast? I mean, almost none of the infomercials videos in the past have ever garnered that much attention. Is it because it's the weirdest of them all? Well, I'd argue it's very weird, but not really the weirdest. Though lots of people have said that this is quote-unquote the strangest thing Adult Swim has ever produced, but dude, have you seen unedited footage of a bear? That's literally one of my favorite things Adult Swim has ever produced for so many reasons, but we'll save that for another day. So why is it that this video went viral compared to everyone else? Well, let's point out the obvious real quick, that being, of course, the theme.
Too many cooks, too many cooks, too many cooks, too many cooks.
That song is a catchy motherfucker. It only proved to be more and more so as the video kept going on and changing styles multiple times. It's not surprising to hear that this part of the video was the most difficult to nail down. After all, music is hard to write, and good music even more so. But catchy music, like earworm shit, that takes serious skill to pull off. Catchy music like that can last in someone's mind for days, maybe even weeks if pulled off well, and it was pulled off extremely well. The other reason for this being more popular has to do with the familiarity of it. I think most of us have watched a sitcom in our life, whether it's something from the olden times of the 80s or 90s like Full House or Family Matters, which heavily inspired Too Many Cooks' opening, or if we're talking about newer sitcoms like, I don't know, Fuller House. What sitcoms do they show nowadays? Actually, quick side note, the reason I wanted to do Too Many Cooks was because I actually had this thought in my mind. I think the idea of Too Many Cooks is so special to so many people because it doesn't really exist anymore. Sitcoms, I mean. I mean, seriously, is anybody looking forward to a sitcom? They're kind of a dime a dozen sort of thing. I swear in the 2000s, there was a point where they were coming out with sitcoms pretty much every single month. None of them really provided anything special or even was anything new or cool. It's just the same old, same old. And that's sort of what's reflective of Too Many Cooks. It's that historical value that sitcoms sort of have in TV history, but it's been the same for 80 years now. It's a familiar thing that we've all watched and experienced together, and we can all find some sort of nostalgia with it. Hell, even if you're not into sitcoms, it's straight up parodies like everything. It's like a celebration of television as a whole, but also a scathing remark on its repetitive nature and formulaic approach that has never really changed, like I said, since about the 40s. And then there's that main reason I think most of us love this short, and that being the story. It is fascinating what is happening in this short. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's got the hallmarks of a weird, surreal Adult Swim short, sure, but it's got a narrative that can be followed. Going back to unedited footage of a bear, which I love a ton, one can't help but acknowledge just how fucking off the rails and confusing it gets. It's extremely experimental, and even when analyzing it closer and talking about all the nuances, you still end up really none the wiser, because short films like these aren't meant to really be solved, but to be questioned. It's up to you what happened. On the other hand, people have not only questioned Too Many Cooks, but people were obsessed with theory crafting the shit out of this whole thing. And let's be honest, making up theories and things that have somewhat tangible threads of narration is very exciting and very engaging. This sort of stuff can build communities and have you talking for days and days about what this, that, or the third could mean. Whoa, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. That's exactly how online horror works. It's the same formula that fuels these sorts of things. Your curiosity plus interest plus narrative plus some weird shit equals an instant hit. And what a hit it was. And yes, me personally, of course I theory crafted this myself. And my own opinion, honestly, is probably different than yours on what exactly happened. For me, I've always viewed this as sort of a commentary on how really brutal the television scene is. How anything can be axed pretty much at the drop of a hat. If your show isn't as successful as the producers thought, then they'll just cancel it out of nowhere. Sure, they might have you renew a few seasons here and there, but who knows if they'll give you the right budget for that season? Who knows if they really even have faith in you anymore? Maybe they might even sabotage it by introducing a new side character like Smarf, who really nobody asked for. It's characters like these, and it's intrusions like these, I should say, that really kill off these sorts of creative projects very soon. And then, when they don't work out, they do something wild. They do something quote-unquote new, but really, it's just copying something else that already exists. I view the people who are afraid of this character, who I think really is representative of producers or people who manage your projects, as more like employees that might lose their job. People who were pretty much already underpaid while working, but now they're just gonna be jobless after this. Who knows really if they'll even find success after this project is done. It's sort of reflective of nowadays, where writers have been on strike for over 100 days this year. Now, thankfully, the writer's strike was proven to be successful as they finally settled their negotiations and are finally getting the treatment that they deserve. But man, that is several years, decades even, of writers just not being treated well, and even actors too. A lot of shady shit happens in the background of Hollywood that people don't really talk about, and people still don't talk about. They're afraid of talking about it because the power dynamic is crazy. You can't just say something and expect not to face repercussions nowadays. And even if that's not necessarily what Too Many Cooks is about, I mean, let's be real, I think they only made it just to be funny and not really to be taken apart and analyzed and scrutinized like bit by bit. But this still spoke to a lot of people, and that's why so many people made their own theories on it. And that's why it's so fun to come up with them, because honestly, everyone's opinion on it is different than yours, and that's pretty cool. I don't even know if people remember this, but Too Many Cooks wasn't uploaded first by Adult Swim. Actually, that came out about a few weeks after it was aired on TV. It actually went viral from a completely different channel who uploaded it pretty much the same day it was shown. Adult Swim took note and, well, uploaded it on their channel, where it gained even more traction. It influenced the masses and really took the world by storm. Tons of people have been influenced by this short alone, even famous directors. It was a gateway for many people who weren't into surrealistic art to finally get their feet wet into something new, something odd, and yet something familiar all the same. Now, this isn't the end, of course, of Casper Kelly's career. While he's given no hints into making a sequel for the short, he has gone ahead and made another short called Final Deployment 4, Queen Battle Walkthrough, which you should check out if you liked his work. As for Adult Swim itself, they've been making weird experimental stuff for years now, so if you're interested in seeing that kind of content, you absolutely can. Just watch any of their previous infomercial shorts and you'll see exactly what I mean. In the end, this ended up being one of Adult Swim's largest success stories, and it shows the strengths of what makes Adult Swim so unique and so fun to watch. They embrace ideas that would otherwise never really flourish outside of their channel, and creativity like this is sparse because of that mindset of embracing familiarity instead of celebrating creativity. So keep an eye out for other projects like Too Many Cooks, because I assure you, there's plenty more out there that remains undiscovered.